When we're talking about intermittent fasting, it's as the name suggests. This is deliberately going for periods of time where you don't eat, going into that fasted state. And now, certainly, we need to keep our fluids up. That's a different story. We need to stay well hydrated. The human body doesn't go well without fluids for long periods of time. So you've got to maintain your fluids. You can drink plenty of water, things like soda water, maybe some diet soft drinks if you like, but certainly not the full sugar soft drinks that are high in sugars, carbohydrates. You can use black tea, you can use black coffee, these sort of things. But what you're aiming for during these periods of fasting is not putting any calories into your body. And what happens during these states is it kicks off a few processes in our body that can be quite adaptive. So the first one I want to talk to in this video is the release of a hormone called human growth hormone, or HGH. So people might have heard of human growth hormone. It's, as its name suggests, fundamental to us growing and developing as people. So we're releasing a lot of HGH during our youth into adolescence. It helps our body develop and grow. Once we've hit adolescence and are moving into older age, we release lower levels of HGH, but we're still releasing it, and it's got a fundamental role there in restoring our cells and regenerating our cells. So every cell in the human body has got a planned lifespan, and it differs depending on what cell it is in the body, but it will generate, it will live its life in a healthy state, and then all healthy cells are programmed for a thing called apoptosis, which is programmed cell suicide, basically. So they have a period of life when they're healthy, and then when they start to malfunction or start to get a little bit older, they know to undergo this apoptosis, and they die off, and a new one comes in its place. So a new one gets regenerated and built in its place. And human growth hormone plays a role in this. So it's constantly in our system, but as we age and as we go into our later years, we release less of this human growth hormone. But intermittent fasting is a great way to spike human growth hormone levels. People might have heard of HGH being used as a performance-enhancing drug in elite sporting realms, and indeed it's a banned substance in elite sport for the very reason that I've just described. It is something that will help your cells regenerate and be optimized, and so it stands to reason that it can give athletes an unfair advantage, so it's banned in elite sport. People are looking at it more recently as a bit of a fountain of youth, if you like, in the whole anti-aging type movement, looking at the role of human growth hormone to be able to slow down or try and sort of stall the aging process. If we can release more HGH or have more HGH in the system, we can combat these effects of aging as we go along. So it's a really interesting and important hormone in our system. And we know that fasting increases the release of human growth hormone. There was a great study that came out recently looking at a cohort of young, healthy men, is what they did this study in. They fasted them for 2 days, and on average it showed that it spiked their human growth hormone release by 500%. So these massive 5 times increases in HGH release just simply by fasting for a 48-hour period, which I appreciate's a pretty long fast for someone who isn't experienced in that area. But when we look at the overall safety of fasting for the average healthy person, the science tells us that you can probably go for up to 2 months without eating, without any significant ill effect on the body. And our body has these evolutionary mechanisms to be able to maintain its energy levels for long periods of time without putting calories into the system. And that spike in human growth hormone, once again from an evolutionary perspective, it makes sense. So human growth hormone will help us preserve our lean muscle mass. So it stops our body from preferentially breaking down our muscles, the good stuff. And when you think of that caveman wandering around in winter, he needed to somehow preserve his muscle mass so that he could hunt and gather in these winter months. And so it makes sense that we'd be releasing more human growth hormone to help preserve that muscle mass so that person could stay functional to hunt and gather and scavenge what they could in terms of calories over winter. So number one of the lesser known benefits of intermittent fasting is these spikes in human growth hormone that we see when we're in the fasted state.